Get ready for an eye-opening story about a new RV.
And her response was, "Ma'am, please remove your animals from the camper, take your son, get everybody out of the camper, and go straight to the emergency room."
Welcome to the channel. I'm Liz. I make videos about defective RVs in hopes of waking up the RV industry so that they'll take care of their customers. I'm proud to say I was able to get 11 buybacks in less than a year and numerous cash settlements and factory repairs. This is thanks to you for making this channel the force that it is. Today, Darah shares the problem she's had with her brand new travel trailer. She's only had it for a couple weeks. And she also shares some interesting insights about her experience and the RV industry in general. I just received a response from the dealer. You'll definitely want to stick around for that. First, Darah's story.
This is our third. Our second camper was a bit of a nightmare, but it was used. My exact words were, "I'm buying a new one this time so that we have absolutely no issues. We're not going to deal with the stress." I unfortunately went through an unwanted divorce in the not too far past. My son turning 18, I really wanted to spend a summer with him. So this was kind of our little bit of a release from working constantly and not getting to spend a lot of time together. We decided to take a seasonal summer job. I'm an online coach and counselor. This camper was going to be our home for the next 5 months. We came out to Montana to do some work camping along with running my practice. We purchased a Forest River, which was a brand new 2025. It's a Surveyor Legend. I purchased the camper in Wabash, Indiana with Zoomer's RV. I paid $33,000 for the camper. Thought that I had just really picked a good model and that we had a safe home for the next 5 months, and it has been anything but. We drove from Tennessee up to Indiana, purchased it up there, and we're actually getting pretty excited that we were going to get to pick up our new camper. Began to do the walkthrough. We're starting to go into the front door of the camper, and they had replaced the main lock on my request to put a keyless entry lock into the camper because I had read about how the RV industry uses all the same keys, and we just didn't want to be driving across the country with someone being able to get into an RV with a single mom and a child. So we went to open the door, and I'm standing there with the saleswoman that sold it to us. I can't get the door open. I'm pulling it, I'm yanking it, and I'm unlocking it this way and that way, and she's saying, "Oh, it's probably just really hard. It's really hard." Finally, my son comes over and really just, puts his hand behind it, puts all of his force and opens it. And she says, "Oh, it's probably just sticky. That's all it is." So I let it pass. We did the rest of the walkthrough. Couldn't really tell anything else wrong with it, but I didn't really, dig around. A couple days later, we realized that a lot of the facade was missing on the sconces and stuff. They just didn't finish them out, but still didn't know any big issues were there because you couldn't see them. So we didn't know. From there, they kind of separated me out and said, "You've got one more thing to do." They sent me off with a man who dealt with warranty, and they sent us into a room where I kind of sat in the room with him and they shut the door. He proceeded to kind of try to sell me a $4,000 warranty. He said it was a 7-year wrap. He even says, "These things are just not made well. They're made very cheaply. You're going to need this wrap and this insurance because I've seen this happen to," and he just goes down a litany of things that he's seen happen in campers. And of course, I've already bought the camper and I don't have an extra $4,000 after spending $32,000, $33,000 on a camper. He keeps telling me, "Now this is my true cost, this $4,000 warranty." And I say to him, "I'm sorry, I just don't have it." He kind of gets elevated with me. He gets kind of, and I actually feeling pretty nervous. Like he's kind of scaring me at this point. He's telling me everything that's wrong with it and really pressing me. And I basically just said, "Sir, I'm sorry, I can't do this. I don't have the money." He comes back after me finally kind of saying that firmly and says, "Well, how about I give it to you?" And he writes down a number and he slides it over and he says, "How about I give it to you for $2,000. So he basically cuts it in half. And then he proceeds to tell me again, "Now this is my true cost," after he had already told me that at the $4,000 mark. At that point, I said, "Sir, I really just need to get going." We had a 6-day drive ahead of us. I said, and I was trying to be polite. I said, "Look, if we decide we want it, I'll call you back." Then he tells me, "If you call me back even a day later, you've now got to use camper and I'm going to have to up the price for you." I said, "Well, if you do, you do. I just can't do that right now." My son noticed one of the largest compartments on the camper holds like the kitchen area. There's an outdoor kitchen area. My son's kind of pushing it and he says, "Mom, this door doesn't close." No matter what we did, we couldn't get the little latch to close. So he says, "We need to ask them to come back and see if they can fix it." So they bring one of their mechanics up. We wait a while and he says, "No, you're right. The latch is broken. It's actually like that from the manufacturer. It looks like there was a little piece on it that had been put there wrong." And as I was talking to the mechanic that was working on it, he says to me, "You know, I actually worked at headquarters. I was on the manufacturing line before I came here to Zoomers." When he says, "This is how we make them. We run them out as fast as we can because it's about money and it's not about quality." That was a little dampening right there. We proceed, we take the camper. During that drive, we stopped at a gas station and we heard some loud noise coming from the camper. So we opened everything up and the LP propane sensor was going off in the camper, just repeatedly signaling, "We're going to have to stop and sleep in this." So we're calling Zoomers, called the man that did the walkthrough. He really didn't know, called the sales lady that sold it to us, and she just said, "Goodness, I hope you can figure it out. I hope you're safe." That was all she said to us. Kept calling the other man back, and he tried to troubleshoot it a little, but he just kept saying he really didn't know. His best advice was just to push the reset button, open the windows. So we did that, and eventually we figured out as we went to the propane tanks that the propane tanks had been left on full open. They had not come back and closed the propane tanks from the walkthrough. So we just assumed that was the propane issue. So we closed it up. We ended up sleeping at a Love's truck stop with the windows open. Pretty cold that night, but decided if this is, we still weren't sure. Drove another day, didn't really have any issues. Still chose not to run the propane just in case. But on day 3 of our travels, we finally decided, okay, tonight let's take some real rest. We pulled off at an RV campground with full hookups. And at this point, we hadn't had a shower, hadn't run the heat, but decided this night that we would turn the propane on. When my son got in to take his shower, the little sensor with the water heater never would show the flame on it. So it would kind of start up, the flame would never come on, the water would never run hot. We fiddled with it, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes or an hour. We called tech support that night. They basically said, after troubleshooting for about 2.5 hours, that they really didn't know what it was. Maybe it was a pressure limiter issue. We didn't feel comfortable removing it for fear it might cause some issues, but they said our best option would be to call a local dealership and kind of put that back in our court. I had to find one that was a seller of new Forest River, so I had to kind of weed them out. We actually found one the next stop. That night we stopped at a rest area again with no heat, no showers. The next morning we went to a dealership. They squeezed us in. They basically said, "We can't look at everything, but we'll look at the water heater," which they did. That afternoon we came to pick up the camper. The tech himself came out and was very, very kind and walked us through. He told us that the hot water heater was not installed correctly, that there were lines and wires that had not been connected, that they had to reconnect them through the length of the wall from the hot water heater back to the shower. He also told us that just like the first man had told us, the first mechanic at the walkthrough, the back compartment door was not installed correctly, and that in order to fix it, they would have to tear out the entire compartment to get that door to shut. Basically telling me that you'll just have to continue driving it like that. And he said the same thing the first said. He said, "I'll just temporarily fix it for you." So right now that still hasn't been fixed. He also told us that the front door lock had been installed incorrectly, and he did the best he could, and he opened it up and showed me where the interior of the door had been completely warped, where they had put the new keyless entry in. And he said, "It's not a wonder you haven't been able to get in your door." He fixed those to the best that he could. He said, "Hopefully that'll give you another few days of using these." And then we went on our way. We have finally arrived at our location in Montana, and we are in freezing temperatures. We have not had a shower at this point. When we arrive, the spot is much, much tighter than we had realized for the seasonal work position we took. And we actually couldn't even get it. We had to back it down a really long road and then back it in, and we didn't end up doing it. One of the construction workers here had backed it in for us, put it in. It took him probably an hour to get it situated because it was a real tiny slot. And when we finally got the camper set up, we decided, all right, we're going to run everything again because they say the hot water's been fixed. They say there wasn't an issue with the propane.
You know, I don't even want to think about this, let alone talk about it, but the truth is we're all getting older. I want to age as gracefully as possible, don't you? And I want to take advantage of every opportunity that will allow me to do that, especially if it will help me stay fit and healthy. To that end, I just learned about a breakthrough supplement that's clinically proven to renew aging cells. Timeline MitoPure gummies contain a pure and patented form of the longevity nutrient urolithin A. It works by converting cellular damage into energy for improved muscle function, strength, recovery, and more. The ingredients in MitoPure are clinically proven to change how you age, and that is backed by over 15 years of scientific research and at least 10 clinical studies. MitoPure is the leading longevity supplement recommended by doctors and is now available as a gummy. The gummies taste great, they're sugar-free, they're vegan, they have no artificial flavors or colors. Try MitoPure gummies for free by using the code GummiesGift. Use the link in my description and the code GummiesGift to get your free gummies.
We're saying, all right, we're going to get in there, we're going to have a hot bath, we're going to have a hot meal. But when we started it up, immediately we start hearing the propane detector go off again. This is an LP detector, but it monitors carbon monoxide and propane gas both. And there's a certain chirp for carbon monoxide. That's what's been going off. The carbon monoxide can only come from burning gas. So it has to be coming from something burning off this propane line, basically. Something is not venting properly, something could be leaking, and if that's the case, we go to sleep, we may not wake up. So now we're getting a little more concerned. So we're not taking a shower again because we know that that's connected, not eating and no heat. I'm not certain what's happening. Nobody can seem to tell me. We've called tech lines, we've called help. I've got my son in the camper. I've got also our dog, our 2 cats, which are also family to us. We had already had a tech tell us that, ma'am, you need to take this seriously because we don't know what's going on. And of course, I'm torn because we don't have any other place to go to. We don't have another room to live in. I don't have the money for extra hotels at this point because I've spent all of this money on what I thought was a livable situation. I am now contacting Forest River headquarters. I'm reaching out to Zoomers. I begin to explain to them how serious this is because now we've had the water heater, we've had doors. I'm starting to get the picture that this camper has some real problems and it has not been looked over like they said it had. So I'm calling headquarters. They connect me finally at headquarters with a woman who is supposed to be in owner relations. The response is much the same again. So we have the detector going off. We don't know what's happening. We're still not getting heat. It's snowing at night. And her response again was, you need to contact a local dealership. And again, it gets put back on me. I need to find a local dealership. I need to make sure it's one that sells Forest River. So I'm having to do a lot of legwork, all while trying to run a practice remotely because I had it set up that the moment we arrived, I'm seeing clients again over the phone. We began working again. So here we are working without showers, without full meals, not knowing our own safety, having to do all of this in freezing temperatures. But I did what she asked me to do, called another local dealership. Again, it was another day till they could get us in. When we got in there, that was roughly a 3.5-hour round trip drive, which I had explained to Forest River because they had told me that there's possibility for mobile techs. So I said, that is really what at this point, with all we've experienced in just the first 6 days, now we're on like 8, 9, or 10 day, I don't remember. But I said, yeah, could you send out a mobile tech? They did look into that and they said, really, you're too far away. We can't send a mobile tech to you. The local dealership had done a pressure test on the propane and they had run the detector and run all the systems longer than they normally do because they had understood that I was concerned. They basically said the detector didn't go off and they really couldn't do a full walkthrough because they just didn't have the time to. They also told me that they didn't think warranty would cover everything, so they kind of did the bare minimum. But they did tell us that the propane was fine. They said the sensor was fine. They didn't think there was a leak. We took it back to our campsite. We had to call another person to back us back down the road to get us maneuvered back into our spot. We got hooked up again that night. We did not hear the sensor for one night. We got excited. We even did try to get a shower that night and did manage to start the hot water for the first time in this whole trip. My son got in there, started the hot water. I thought it was all working. I walked to the kitchen to wash a dish that had been dirty, turned the hot water on, and it cut off the hot water in the bathroom. We fiddled with that for about an hour that night. He was feeling pretty desperate because he hadn't had a bath now in days and days and days. It was cold and it never worked again that night. So turning the kitchen sink on shut off the water to the back. So the lines are still messed up somehow, don't know how. That day, the carbon monoxide sensor started going off again after they had told us that everything was fine with it. So we've backed away again from taking showers, having hot meals, running the propane furnace. At this point, we are 8 days in, no showers, working 2 jobs. It has not been the respite or the memories or any of those things that I had envisioned when we first purchased this camper. I'm getting pretty frustrated. I'm calling in to Forest River headquarters because now none of this is still working after 2 visits to local dealerships. They had said that they were going to send me to consumer relations and that someone would be contacting me, but they never did. So now I'm calling back in to follow up on this, and they send me to the director of services and parts. She says, I will look into it and I'll get back to you by the end of the day, she says. When I hang up, I'm also calling Zoomers at the local dealership. I'm leaving messages with the owners. Did not receive any phone call back from them that day. We are in the camper all of this time. I'm saying to my son, I don't know what's wrong, but my eyes just feel extremely red and raw. I'm feeling kind of just dizzy. We've had some dizziness, faint-headedness back when the propane sensor was going off before, but at this point, we're not running the propane. The propane is actually shut off at the tanks, so I'm really not sure at this point what it is. But about halfway through the day, my cheeks had gotten extraordinarily red and had kind of begun to swell a little bit. This is when my son says, Mom, actually, all day long I've had a horrible headache, and he never gets headaches. So I thought, I'm going to call our health insurance line. And her response was, Ma'am, please remove your animals from the camper, take your son, get everybody out of the camper, and go straight to the emergency room. Knowing that the next emergency room is, again, a 3-hour round trip, but we load up the animals, take them all, put them in our car. We drive down to the emergency room. They test my blood. Turns out that I did have some carbon monoxide exposure levels, which is, I forget the name, it's like carbate. I can't give you the technical name, but the levels were elevated. When the doctor came back in, he said my levels were at this point not extremely high, so there was no treatment involved, which was a blessing. That was good. But he said, I would recommend that you get that camper made safe immediately, that you make sure that everything's working and that you don't turn the propane back on because you don't know what's happening. I'm talking again with the service and repair parts manager at Forest River, and she says, I actually did do some digging. I apologize, we haven't gotten back to you. This is what I found out. The local dealership in Indiana had apparently filed a claim on this exact unit that we had purchased. When this Forest River unit, this exact unit, had been pulled off the lot from the manufacturer after it was built, it had these problems. It arrived at the dealership's lot in Indiana with these very problems, and then the dealership noted the issues with the propane issues. I don't know what they are, still to this day don't know, with the hot water heater, with the compartment door. They filed a claim with Forest River, and then they proceeded to fix the issues with the camper. They then in turn turned around and sold it to me without ever disclosing that any of these issues ever existed. And when I questioned her again about this and said, do you mean to tell me everything that I have been going into local dealerships and calling you about was known by the entire dealers, like known by them before they sold this? And she said, I'm looking down the list that you sent us by email, and they knew about every problem that you have told me about. I guess it was a little like a punch in the stomach because we had been through so much, and nobody would be honest about it. More than anger, I'm just feeling a little overwhelmed because I think what has been so disheartening to me is that people could do this to other people, that a whole industry can work together and put out a product knowing that families like mine are going to get into these RVs thinking that we're making memories and not care. That's the thing that gets me the most, is that call after call after call, I wasn't met with, we are going to get right on this. We're going to make sure that your family is safe, that you're taken care of, and that we care about you as a business. We care not just about your money, that you paid for it and now you're on your own, but that we actually care about your family because we make a product that is made for, usually for families seeking to make healthy memories. And I think that's probably what hurts me the most. She was basically indicting the local dealership that it was their problem, that they knew about it. And what I said to Michelle is, Michelle, what's even more concerning to me is that you both knew about it, that it came off the manufacturer's lot this way, as well as the dealer knew about it. So now I have two, I have the manufacturer and I have the dealer that all knew about these problems, and no one let me, the consumer, know about any of it. Dealing with the RV industry in general has probably been one of the more stressful events of my life, even from the sales side of it, right down to this side not being dealt with well. And the entire way through, we have had honest-hearted workers inside these dealerships. They have taken us aside and said, ma'am, this is what you get when you buy an RV. They are done poorly. They are done quickly. I've had 3 now tell us this exact same thing. What that says to me is that we have this is a bigger issue. It's not just our camper. And it just kind of really hurts my heart that so many families are going out and thinking that they're buying this product that's going to keep them safe, when people right inside the industry themselves will tell you that it is not a safe product. Now, I'm sure some are, but I'm living proof that many aren't. And I think that's really discouraging and disheartening. Number one, there will never be a next time around. The honest truth is there isn't much I would do differently because I actually was a pretty diligent consumer. I guess there's one thing that I would recommend to anyone looking for an RV, which would be this. I got a brand new camper, but I definitely price shopped. I went for the cheapest brand new camper I could find. We were in Tennessee, and I was told by at least one dealership, and I actually didn't trust it. Now I trust it. They told me not to look at the RVs in Indiana where they do the manufacturing, because they said often what happens in Indiana is because the dealers are so close with the manufacturers, they pull the defected ones off the lot and they discount them heavily. This particular camper we bought was cheapest in Indiana. Now I kind of question if what the dealer in Tennessee said wasn't true. So my advice would be work with a reputable dealer. I felt like I didn't research the local dealer as well as I could have. Potentially, you could also get a paid independent inspection. I know in my case, even if you had told me that prior to all of this happening, likely I wouldn't have because I didn't have the money for it. I used my life savings to directly outright pay for this camper, so I didn't have extra for that. But if you can, absolutely, I would suggest that you get independent inspection where they are not beholden to the dealership. None of this was obviously in our plan. Not being clean, not being able to make hot meals, having lots of food that we can't cook. So it's been a challenge, to say the least. It's been quite a challenge. Where we're at right now is we have received one email from Zoomers saying that she appreciates my patience and that she'll look into it. On the Forest River side, the last conversation we had was, we'll be back in touch. I basically want full acknowledgement of everything that has gone on, everything that they've kind of put our family through knowingly. We had planned to keep this camper past Montana after the 5 months and buy land back in Tennessee to live in this camper. I no longer have any confidence in Forest River. I do not want to keep the camper past this 5 months of being in it. However, I don't trust this particular camper. What I feel is fair is to give us a replacement camper that completely works, that has had all the inspections, has a stamp of approval from the manufacturer, from the dealer, whoever gives it to us. And at the end of 5 months, we will drive it back to you and give it to you. We no longer want any product from Forest River at this point, but want to know that we have something stable, at least to live in for the next 5 months, because this is what our plan has been all along.
I actually have 2 responses to share with you. One is a response to Darah's Google review. She left a 1-star Google review for Zoomer's RV, and I think it's pretty level-headed. I'm going to put the whole thing on the screen so you can decide for yourself. Let me just read the beginning to you. I've never left a review for any product or service before, but after our experience with Zoomer's RV, I feel ethically obligated to speak up. What was meant to be a positive new chapter for my family quickly turned into a nightmare, filled with dangerous safety issues, corporate runaround, and a complete failure of accountability, including from dealership owner Mike Weaver, who never returned my calls or emails. Now, before I read his response, I want to remind you that Mike Weaver is the owner of Zoomer's RV. There are several locations in the Midwest. Mike writes, "Thanks for the review. Unrealistic demands are impossible to meet. We have 29 documented calls and or emails doing everything in our control to resolve your issue. Forest River has more documented calls trying to assist them. Every situation was answered and handled by our professional team and by Forest River team in an extremely timely manner. We will not do anything against the law to resolve an issue. We are always here to help. And then he has an update. We cannot legally allow to handle this matter according to Forest River. So it was a little hard to read. There's some grammatical errors in there, but I'm really interested in what you think of Mike's response. I'm a little taken back by unrealistic demands are impossible to meet. I mean, all she's trying to do is to be safe and have a hot shower on top of that. Let me know what you think in the comments. I do have another response from him because I did send him an email and he responded back. He says, as of this moment, I cannot discuss any details of this situation as Forest River Legal has taken over this situation and has asked Zoomers not to discuss further. I have contacted my legal counsel and they have been in contact with Forest River and we are to have no further communication at this point. Zoomers did everything in our power to resolve said issue. We've completed 3 tests and say a significant different story than what the customer is saying. The customer needs to deal with Forest River Legal directly. So I did reach out to Forest River. I reached out to the top people there. I have not received a response, and this is the typical thing for Forest River. It generally takes a video to go viral for them to sit up and take notice. So this is where you come in. Please like, subscribe, and share. Help get the video out there, and I will definitely come back with an update. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.